My first myth today came via request and surrounds the story that in the late 1960s, the Guess Who were almost drafted into the US Army when they came stateside to play a few shows. This one is pretty complicated, though in the end, it's ultimately false. Back in the late 1960s, tax laws and immigration laws and getting visas were pretty strict, even if people were coming from Canada like the Guess Who were. The band had to go through a very lengthy visa process just so they could play shows in the US. And at one time, they actually were pressured to denounce their Canadian citizenship and become American citizens. After working under one of these visas for a while, they actually found out that due to the wording in the visa, they could in fact be drafted into the Vietnam War technically. And at one point they were told that as soon as they crossed the border, they needed to report to the nearest draft board and register. When they were told that one, they simply played their show and got back home as quickly as they could and then went about changing their visas. So technically, yes, they could have been drafted at one point into the Vietnam War, but they never went to the draft board or anything like that, and they quickly changed their visas when they found out the problem. The second myth I want to discuss today actually came up during an argument I overheard in a record store last week, and it's the claim that there are some people who can tell exactly what's on a record simply by looking into the groove. As impossible as it may be to believe, this is 100% true, and the most famous of these so-called groove readers was Dr. Arthur Lintgen. Basically, he would just study the grooves, and due to his excessive knowledge of classical music, he could figure out how many movements there were, he could see the rises and pitches of the sound, where the percussion was, and things like that. And then he'd basically reference that with all the classical music that he knew, and he'd pick out the correct piece. He performed this feat on countless occasions just to prove that he wasn't a fraud. And over the years, other people have shown this exact same ability. Freakishly strange, but completely true. Our final myth today was also a request, and it's the claim that Jan Berry of the group Jan and Dean was actually killed at the exact location that they sing about in their song Dead Man's Curve. Now, many cities all across the world have a so-called Dead Man's Curve. It's where there's a really sharp turn in the road and there are lots of crashes. And the one in question with this song is on Sunset Boulevard between Hollywood and Beverly Hills in Los Angeles. The song is basically about a drag race with a tragic aftermath, and it actually went all the way to number 8 in April of 1964. Just 2 years later, Jan Berry was involved in a terrible car crash when he slammed into the back of a truck in Beverly Hills. But this is where that myth completely falls apart. First off, Jan Berry survived the crash, but he was in a coma for many weeks and he had a lot of severe injuries. Secondly, the place where he crashed was miles away from the place they were singing about in the song. So no, there's no eerie prophecy in the Jan and Dean song Dead Man's Curve. So those are our myths for this week. Be sure to check back here every Thursday as I delve into some of the coolest stories in music history, and be here every day for all the music news, reviews, and knowledge you'll ever need.